Hey everyone, welcome back, and well, happy end of October. I know that sounds wild, but I'm not a Halloween person, so I think that this actually sounds great for me. And going into the holidays is my favorite part. But before we get there, we have a very special guest. You guys will recognize him from the Real Housewives of New York. We love his wife. We love him. Actually, the honesty, we're going to get into it because there are a few controversial things that he says, but I think that's even more so why we love them. And I think his husband or my husband might love him more than I do, and his wife. But hold on. Let's see how this goes. Guys, if you haven't already, go ahead, pop off in the comment section, smash the like button. If you're not subscribed, get subscribed, and let's welcome Abe Lichy. Hello.
What's up, Adam?
How's it go? Wait, I have a question for you before we get started. We didn't know until the Taylor Swift era of it all that Travis Kelce was actually Travis Kelce. Is it actually Abe and Erin Lichy? We're pronouncing it right, or the fans not, and you're just not correcting them?
Oh, no, I'll correct people. Sometimes they get Licky, which is for another time, but it's Lichy. You pronounced it correctly.
It's Lichy. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Abe, I'm actually.
By the way, I love your intro. It got me amped up. It was a good one.
I appreciate that. Listen, it's a long time coming. I keep Jason behind the background. He just alters things, and all of a sudden I come on and I have new music. You know, it's a good little partnership pair over here. But
love it.
I want to dive right into this because before we talk about like what you do, and you know, obviously your wife is one of the Real Housewives. How has it been for you being exposed to the Bravo fandom? Being on the Real Housewives of New York?
That's a good question. I would say half the time it's mixed, right? Because there's the social media aspect, and then there's meeting people in person, which are two very different experiences. Social media, they are very opinionated, and the type of people who comment, which I don't typically read, but sometimes after I say things that are, I guess, borderline controversial, it's interesting to read. People really can be very negative, but also there's a lot of love out there. But meeting people in person is fantastic. I didn't realize the positivity in the community, so that's been really nice.
You know what's wild is the difference is the people who go in on social media who have the worst opinions and they're the keyboard warriors. Normally, they're the ones who are sitting behind like a dog avatar or something that's not their face, right?
Oh, yeah.
But those are the same people who probably walk up to you and your wife when they see you out and about in New York City and they're like, oh my God, I love you.
We met. So it's funny. We met like a year ago. We were at some charity event. I don't remember her actual name, but we met this girl and she was so friendly, whatever. And then I saw online, and I knew it was her because of the picture, and which she was talking all this shit about me and Erin. And I'm like, we just met you. And you're putting on this fake airs about being so nice, and then you go online behind your alias name and talk all this shit. So it's just, yeah, that happens a lot, I guess.
It happens a lot. No, it's true. It's true. And we're not even on the same sort of platform that you are. And I see it in like on such a small level. I could only imagine what you guys deal with. But so for those watching and listening right now, it was really hard, just as somebody who's been covering Bravo for like the last 4 or 5 years. The fact that Bravo ended up completely rebooting Real Housewives of New York, one, it's never been done. Two, we've never cut a reunion. And three, so many people loved the original cast that it almost felt like these ladies were set up for failure. Like the husbands, the ladies, everyone. But that's not what happened. Fans fell in love with you guys, which I think is absolutely incredible. I think it's a testament to the casting department for Bravo. And then for you coming on with Erin, I before I even saw you guys on our TV screens, my husband did his research on you guys, like just kind of seeing who the new cast members were, and he was like, these are 2 out of the 4 that I am watching for. And I'm like, why? He said, just watch. You
That's
guys
very
are,
nice.
yeah, I mean, you guys, it's because I think you guys are unapologetically yourselves. Like you have the hard discussions, the conversations that a lot of people would probably try to hide from the cameras and present themselves as if everything is always perfect.
I mean, yeah, you see that all the time. And now having been behind the curtain, meeting a lot of the other franchise cast members and the husbands, it's a very different experience when you meet them in person versus what you see on TV. And to be honest, I don't really watch shows, at least not front to start to finish. But it's a very different portrayal. So yeah, I agree with that.
Do you okay, so now coming on to a show like did you have any expectations? Did you have any advice for your wife before coming on? Did you like, where was your head when you even found out that, "Okay, we're putting our little family in front of the world?"
It was weird because Erin was approached. We interviewed with them. Or she interviewed, then I interviewed. Obviously, we we had talked about it, but it was just one of those things that we just did, and I guess didn't give too much thought to. We're just like, yeah, let's just try this out and see what it's like. I told her in the beginning, if we're going to do this, I want to be real. We should be real. You should be real. We're going on a reality show, and I'm not interested in my participation, at least, in going on and being a fake version of myself and wearing the mask. And she felt very much the same way. What you see with her is what you get. Granted, there's some editing and context that's missing from certain scenes. Of course, I mean, they can't show 24/7 revolving footage, but it's real. And that was the biggest thing for me, is just be honest and truthful, even if it's not perfect, even if something is perceived as a negative, that if it's real and it's real life, we want to share that because we want people to be able to connect with those types of moments.
Yeah, this is nothing against Erin at all, and I know that even
Uh-oh.
starting it like that sounds like it's going to be negative, and it's not. But you do seem like you're more I think that as a viewer watching, Erin seems like, "Yes, I'm going to be myself," but also there are certain things like, "Hey, let's reserve that for when the cameras are not on, and let's kinda keep that to ourselves," where you're just like talking about shrooms and things that and it kinda seems like she's like, "Damn it, Abe, like, what are you doing right now?" And you're like, "No, I thought this is what we agreed on. It's being real. It's the Real Housewives, right?"
It's funny because it's actually how it is in real life. We'll be at dinner with friends, or more so with people that we've just come to know who are not close friends. And I could always tell she gets a little nervous when I open my mouth because I don't have a filter, and so it's actually like that off camera too. So
I well, that it goes back to, okay, this is why this works. So we're not changing anything for the cameras. I like that. Um,
yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's a decision of what they show versus not show, with the editing, of course, that may sometimes make things feel a little manufactured, but when they really weren't in the moment, they were real conversations and real issues and real things that were discussed.
has there ever been a moment for you that's been sort of odd, either for either one of you guys? Like you feel like, my God, when you're in a relationship, when you're married, it's like you love this person, you know how special you are, you know how great they are, and it's almost like you get to hog them to yourselves. And sometimes you're just like, I need my own space. I get that. I've been with my husband for 11 years now, so I totally
Oh, so
understand.
similar.
So yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And sometimes I'm like, you can have your space. But then sometimes I'm like,
you're
I don't
like
want to
Aaron.
scare you. Yeah.
I, I I need my own space from time to time, but Erin definitely needs hers more than I do. I like, my love language is physical connection, not in a sexual way per se, but just I love being with Erin, and the sharing was the hardest part. That's actually the word that I think of often when I'm asked that question, which is, what's it like when your wife becomes famous? We should quasi famous. I don't know how the degree of it, but it was the sharing of her and her time with the public, with the audience, with the events that she has to go to for the show and things like that. And that took a bit of getting used to, but at the same time, I'm extremely supportive of that for her, and I knew that going into it. But I miss her sometimes when it's like it used to be just the two of us. So it's a balance.
Right. But then also you definitely have a look. I mean, I feel like I'd obviously be able to, pinpoint you in a lineup of people, and I think that
Just
you're
the
easily
eyebrows.
I don't know if it's the eyebrow. I'm just saying you're recognizable at this point. So is it fun for her? Like, are there ever moments where somebody comes up to you and like, how does she react to this for you?
When people come up to me,
Yeah.
you're saying? Um, I think she gets a kick out of it. She,
Yeah. Okay.
people
So it's
approach
fun.
her way more because she's who she is.
She's the
But
real housewife.
I think she looks at it like, oh, that's so sweet. Like somebody recognized Abe. It's like this, like good job, Abe.
She's like, you're doing great, sweetie. You're doing great.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Last night we were at this at the Angel Ball, and Erin and I left, and Erin went ahead to go get the car because I had to go grab some bag. Like she left her bag on the table, so I'm walking and trying to find her. These two random women, a mother and a daughter, I think. I hear them say, "Oh, that's the husband." She went right there. Like it was like, "Oh, thanks," because I was looking for her. I never met these people. They I guess recognized me. They had just seen Erin, so that was a funny moment.
So, okay. All right. And I'm sure it's going to also snowball the more that you guys or the longer you guys are on TV. But now I wanted to kind of dive in a little bit more just about you because I feel like the husbands, unless it's like the Real Housewives of New Jersey, we don't really get to find out a whole lot about the husbands unless you're Jessel. Right now, Jessel she is pitching the hell out of this like food social media influencer shtick. And I'm not mad at it. I
I'm
love
not
that she's
mad at
doing it.
either. I'm very happy for Pavitt that he found his calling, and
I,
he's actually really good at it.
I think it's great, but for you, if you Google you, then you see founder and managing partner at the advisory, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then you also see co-founder and CEO at Mezcalum. Am I saying that right? Mezcalum.
Mezcalum. You know, it's funny.
Mezcalum?
We've been deliberating over putting an accent over the last U because half the people pronounce it Mezcalum, which is not incorrect, I think, from a phonetic Spanish language, but it's Mezcal plus Tulum had a baby, so Mezcalum is how we pronounce it.
Mezcalum.
But we might have to put the accent on the U now because a
So
lot of people.
I asked the question about the wrong name. I shouldn't have even asked it. I was right on Lychee. I should have just asked about Mezcalum and just
Hey,
saved that question.
it's okay. I'll forgive it.
Hey, so when did you start Mezcalum?
We started it. We launched earlier this year in January 24. We had started the business a year prior. So, I formed the corporation, we raised capital, made our hires, found our distiller, and we put all the infrastructure in place. We soft launched at BravoCon actually, which was November of 23. We had a booth there, which was actually one of the most fun experiences I've ever had because I'm not talent on the show. I'm like a plus one, glorified plus one. So I'm not restricted by having to be, in the backstage area with security details. So I'm like going around and I must have taken like 1,500 selfies, which was fun. I've never experienced that in my life.
You got to go play in the
Um,
public.
yeah, you know what? I thrive in chaos and being in, like, we go to a concert, I need to be in the front of the general admission. And the more chaos around me, the better. I love it. But anyway, we really launched in January of this year, and it's been phenomenal. And the feedback and the distribution, the amount of accounts that we've been able to get in such a short period of time, and the team that we've built has been really cool. Especially after we had a handbag line, which didn't do too well many years ago.
Well, no, but I think that's what it's so easy for people to diss something that doesn't do well, like even, and this obviously this is not about me, but my husband and I, we have tried a couple of other businesses and sometimes, it's like throwing pasta at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? They're not always going to do well, but the one that finally hits, like, okay, then we run with it.
Yeah.
But
Well, you
for
couldn't get to the one that does well, I think, unless you had the ones that didn't do well, because that's where you really learn what works, what doesn't work, and the lessons of what doesn't work. At least my experience, when we had the handbag line and all the aftermath of it, those lessons never leave you because of how invested you were in them and how much you might have lost from that, financially or just time or ego. And those lessons, I think, are the things that can allow you to become successful. Because if you've never experienced failure, you're going to eventually hit a situation where you're not going to know how to react or what to do, and the stakes are going to be much higher. So better to get those out of the way, have some failed businesses, and then get the one that works and know what to do.
So for Mezcalum, do you feel like, I mean, because obviously you're going to get a lot of questions about this because the beverage space, it's a huge space, right? So a lot of people can say that just like many other spaces, it can be oversaturated at times. But then the first question that fans and people, when they try it, whoever, first question they're going to ask you is what makes you different? And
Yeah,
that's
I
what I
have an
want to know.
answer. Yeah. So when we started the business, we've been wanting to do a mezcal brand for, I don't know, 12 years. We fell in love with the spirit in Tulum, where we would go all the time, and all they drink there is mezcal. And so, we'd be partying on the beach, mezcalitos, mezcal, and we would say, I can't believe this is not a thing in the States. Everybody's drinking tequila. This is so much better. So every few years we would talk about, we got to do a mezcal brand, but we had our own businesses and the cost of marketing was so prohibitive and the space was too young that it just never made sense. So you fast forward when we actually started the business, we have a platform now, which is extremely valuable from a marketing perspective. But beyond that, the spirit industry as a category, it's now the number one or top three fastest growing spirits by
Wow.
category in the country. And so it's not saturated yet either. There's enough brands where there's precedent so people understand what mezcal is, but there are enough people where the messaging gets out there as a whole so that there's opportunity to capture that market share. And there's not, a Casamigos level mezcal right now. And so there's a big opportunity. I don't view it as saturated in mezcal specifically. RTDs, tequila, vodkas, whiskeys, heavily saturated. I would never start a tequila brand now. It would be foolish unless you were an A-list celebrity and had just a shitload of money.
To-
So for us, it was
yeah.
a great niche, and we actually love the product and we believe in it for many reasons. So what makes us different is most mezcals that you come across, and you'll probably start noticing now is you look at the branding, it's very tribal, ritualistic, very masculine dominated as an industry. The flavor profiles are traditionally very smoky, which I personally like, but a lot of people kind of entering the market, oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Um, entering the market are intimidated by the smoke. And so our whole thesis was, make the bottle beachy, sexy. So I got carry this wherever I go. And I give Erin a lot of credit because she came up with the design and the concept so that it's not overly masculine. It's more inviting and it's evocative of Tulum style beach, sexy vacation. You're sipping on a beach and you're just enjoying yourself versus the more ritualistic focus that a lot of the other mezcal brands have. And we must have gone through 80 different blends with our distiller before we landed on the current one because we really want it to be very light on the smoke because we want to appeal to the female demographic too. It's one of the lowest calorie spirits that you could buy in general. There's no additives ever. It's sugar-free, carb-free, gluten-free, GMO-free, vegan, and all the qualities that you would want in a spirit where if you care about what you're putting into your body, which, and this is not specific to females, but a lot of females, of course, care about what they put into their body. It just made sense. And it blends really well with cocktails too, where it's not an overpowering taste that you even go with tequila. So that was our whole thesis. And that's what really makes us different is the messaging and the flavor profile.
So question for you, does Mezcal, does that, because a lot of people like to, I went to Dorinda's house for a Halloween party at the Berkshires, who also
Nice.
was on RHONY. I was there last week and we were drinking tequila, and it's because tequila is an upper. Is Mezcal also an upper?
Oh, it sure is. So it's an upper because it's from agave. So it's not made from wheat or barley or rye. And so it's the same thing. Tequila is actually a type of mezcal. Mezcal is not tequila though. So mezcal is an agave spirit. Tequila is a mezcal just made with the blue Weber agave. It can only be made from one species of agave, but mezcal is made from any of the species of agave. So it's a subset of mezcal. Tequila
And
is.
okay, so also for people who might not be familiar with mezcal, it's a smokier flavor. And what you're also saying too is you guys kind of took away the harshness of what that smoky flavor could have potentially have been. It's not like,
Yes.
does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Okay.
And they literally,
Okay.
it gets it because tequila, they typically will steam the agave in these kind of industrial metal vats, these copper vats. But mezcal, they literally have these huge holes in the ground, fill it with stone with firewood underneath, light the firewood, heat the stones up. Then they put the piñas, which is, it looks like a big pineapple, it's just the agave heart. They cut the leaves off. So similar to tequila in that sense. Put them on top and they cover it with the tarp and dirt. So they're literally smoking it. They're roasting the agave, which is how you get that smoky flavor to begin with.
I don't, and I hope I don't. I'm like one of those weird people who don't believe in a stupid question, but I also will ask the stupid question and say there's no
I
such
don't
thing as
believe
a
in
stupid
stupid
question.
questions.
But there, to be fair, there are stupid questions. But I feel like I'm not. I don't think that this would classify as that. They say that. How do you know if it's champagne? Well, it comes from the region of Champagne. For mezcal, does it also have to come from a specific region, or it's just the way that it is? It is done. It's not necessarily
That
a
is
region.
not a stupid question at all. Yeah, Mezcal is from Oaxaca, which is a huge region. But there are also a lot of other, it's a very heavily regulated spirit in terms of the quality standards and ingredient standards. And they actually test, I think for every 10,000 liters or every huge vat, they'll take a liter, send it to Comercam, which is the regulatory industry, and they'll test it to make sure that it meets the quality standards before they can consider it mezcal. So in order to import it into the US and call it mezcal, it has to meet all those standards. Otherwise, you can't bring it into the US and call it mezcal. So there's a lot of things that go into it.
I'm so fascinated with business distribution, how people source things, how you get off the ground, like, especially if you're doing it from different countries, right? This from start to finish until like from the start, the concept of your idea, knowing that you wanted to do it to actually implementing, like, okay, we're going to turn this into a business to bringing it to fruition. How long was that process?
Honestly, pretty quick. So there are a few advantages that we have. The marketing side, I think, is kind of obvious because of the show, but I've been working with a law firm in Mexico for the past 6 years, doing their clients' intellectual property work in the US. They're the largest tequila and mezcal law firm in Mexico. And so when we started the business, we tapped them as both our Mexican counsel, but also as advisors. And they were able to introduce us to top distillers very quickly. So they knew their reputations, they had worked with them, or their clients had worked with them. And so we were able to bypass a huge amount of work just sifting through the bullshit because, and not to say that these micro distillers don't make good products, they do. But if you go to Oaxaca, you could go down some of these roads and there are just hundreds and hundreds of these micro distilleries, which are great for, you want to buy a couple of bottles, but they couldn't service a big growing brand in the US. And so we were able to partner up with our current distiller, Carlos, who you guys will meet in soon to be episode, I believe. And he ended up investing in the brand. His family's been doing this for over 100 years on both the parents' side. They own a
Wow.
ton of land down in Oaxaca. And he's just the man. He's entrepreneurial and he gets it. And he really cares deeply about the product. So he's manages our facilities down there. I mean, his facilities. So we essentially are ordering the product from him. He'll make the mezcal, bottle it, label it, and ship it out. And so it's a fairly straightforward logistics operation from our perspective. Really, I view Mezcalum as a sales and marketing company. It's an IP holdings company at the end of the day.
So, just because I know the Bravo fandom so well, I know that people will easily like come out and everybody is an expert at everything. Everybody knows everything before you even
Yeah.
share it, which is it's my favorite. I love this about especially the viewers. Um, but when people come out and they say, "Oh, wow, like how original. You guys are coming out with this liquor brand just like, maybe Bethany Frankel or somebody else did." Like do you have any sort of reaction to that? Because by the way, Bethany Frankel, Lisa Barlow on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, or even Lisa Vanderpump, who has her rosé, nobody reinvented the wheel over there. They were just genius, some of them, at marketing it, and also what they kind of changed and tweaked about those specific spirits.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your question because I've seen that feedback, and my response would be, we're not just sticking our names onto a product and having some other company make it for us. We actually built this business from the ground up, and we're actively involved as founders and owners. I mean, we run the business. This is not just some side project where we're like, oh, we're on the Housewives and we're going to start a brand. Yeah, we're on the Housewives, and so that's a variable as far as marketing capabilities, but we're building a real brand, and that's what we've been successful with so far. And it's a product that we genuinely care about. We've been going down to Mexico for years. We've got a lot of friends from Mexico. I work with a lot of Mexican companies for many years, and this spirit is something that's near and dear to our heart because of what it stands for, the culture behind it, the purity of it from a health perspective. We don't make health claims, but from a purity perspective of what you're putting into your body. And so I get it. I get why they say that, but I don't view us at all like that. And I would say, give us a chance, try the mezcal, or just follow us and see the journey before you rush to judgment. Because, and this is not just with the mezcal brand, with many things, I think, with being on the show, for us specifically, I think a lot of people rush to judgment and make a lot of assumptions that are just so far off base, though I understand them, but just be open-minded.
Well, and this is not a diss to anybody, but I feel like sometimes people love to just have an opinion to have an opinion. And a lot of times people are very pleasantly surprised when they do just try the product, understand the story, understand the why of it, which I think is so incredible because you do such a great job telling the story for this very specific business. I feel like I've already learned a lot.
Good.
From the beginning of just like learning how to pronounce the name, but okay. So
I'd rather
now,
I'd rather come into something where people have a negative sentiment and then be pleasantly surprised rather than being overhyped and then there's this way too high of an expectation set. So I don't mind in life in general when people are haters in the beginning, because it just gives me more motivation to convert them, so to speak.
I like that. So is there a big, I feel like I'm your, what am I like? I'm like a mother-in-law over here. I'm like, is there a big 5-10 year plan? Like, is there a plan for the business and like what you
Yeah.
hope for this company?
Yes. I mean, our goal is to build this over the next, let's say, 5 years, 4 to 6 years to exit, and then move on to other businesses, I suppose. We're not looking to run this business ourselves for 20 years. We want to build this. And I believe that the mezcal category will get to the tequila levels when Casamigos was acquired, where you're getting these crazy premiums because the category is so hot. And I think our timing has been spot on so far. There's a lot of work to be done, so we don't rest on any laurels, certainly, but I think we're primed to be set up for something like that in that time frame.
Like an acquisition?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
want to be
Okay.
acquired.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
this is gonna sound so shady, and I don't mean it to be. And it's
I love
because
when questions are prefaced like this.
this is how I have to do it because you're such a nice guy, Abe. I can't just sit here and
I'm not
like,
that nice.
well, you come off really nice, like in your box over here. So I just gotta,
Well,
I feel like I have to be nice back. And I like you. So with this, and say it gets acquired and whatnot, and the goal, we meet the goal. Do you go back and you buy the Bitcoin again, or do you leave the Bitcoin alone?
I buy. Well, it depends on what the price is, but yeah, I'm stocking up on that Bitcoin. Big stock up.
Stocking the hell out of it.
Oh, yeah, it's not that shady, by the way. That's totally fair question.
Okay. So, and I did have a question. There was somebody who reached out to me and they asked, how long ago did Abe sell the Bitcoin, and what was the difference between the time that he bought it to the time that he sold it? I don't know if you've talked about this, but I don't think I've heard anything about it.
I think it was mid 2022, I think, somewhere around there. Um, it's a lot higher now, so
Yeah.
that sucks. But it was for something that just needed to be paid, which I'm happy to talk about. But yeah, if I go back, I would obviously prefer to have the Bitcoin in the account, no question. So it is what it is.
I mean, I was so happy because I cover the Real Housewives of New York, and I was like, "There's no way," just because the build up, the lead up to it of Erin being so upset with you. I'm like, "There's no way." Like, it couldn't have been a cheating scandal because I feel like this is a little bit too calm for that, and I was hoping it was not going to be. So when I found out
Yeah, I
Bitcoin, I'm
saw a
like,
lot of speculation about the cheating.
I mean, that's what everybody would naturally have thought. Like, what else? Nobody, this is not your normal, like, this is not the most relatable issue, like, where it's like, oh, honey sold the Bitcoin. Like, that's not like, your everyday.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, maybe with Bitcoin specifically, but I do think, well, I know because I hear it all the time, especially after the episode aired. Erin got a lot of people reaching out through DM. I got a lot of people reaching out telling me, they're going through. It's not about the Bitcoin. It's about when couples keep things from each other for various reasons, whether they don't want to stress the other one out, or there's pride involved, or they just want to fix things themselves, especially with finances. And this happens all the time. And so part of what I was hoping, and I think this has been connecting, at least with some people, is to say, this is a reality that a lot of couples go through in one degree to another. It might be different scale from some couples to another, but nobody talks about it. And so when it happened, let's talk about it. And hopefully that could get other people to start talking to their significant others and just being more open and honest and not feeling they have to fix everything by themselves or hide things from their spouse when things are uncomfortable. So that's really the goal of what I hope comes out of that.
Yeah. And anybody like that you like to talk about it because I have another question for you.
I like
So,
questions. Ask me
if,
anything you want. I'm really I will happily answer as long as it's not protected by confidentiality.
so some people, there was actually another subscriber who said, Abe mentioned that he felt pressure to keep up with Aaron's desired lifestyle. Does he ever deal with imposter syndrome?
Every day, man, but not because of that. I just suffer from imposter syndrome in general. I think everybody does to a degree, but I do want to clarify the way that I think a lot of people interpreted that comment that I made, because that comment was in reference to when I first started dating Erin as opposed to now. And so I don't think that got across. And for whatever it's worth, I think that it's for me, a meaningful distinction, because it was really when I first started dating Erin, I started my law job. I was at a cushy white shoe law firm, started making a ton of money for the first time. And I met Erin a few weeks after I started at the firm, and like just kind of path took a completely different turn in life, for the better. But there was that pressure at that time. And I think psychologically, there was a latent part of that. And that continued. We had this handbag business, and that failed miserably, spectacularly, I should say. But that's where I learned a lot about business and how to actually operate and what not to do. But it's really just the few years after the handbag business, and it was our business. A lot of people, I think, misinterpret saying, "Oh, I'm paying debts for Erin's business." It's not really true. It was our business together, and we put all our life savings in it. I self-funded it, and so here we are at the tail end of a business, having our second kid, having no liquidity. We lost all our money in it, and having to rebuild from scratch. I mean, I started my own law firm from nothing in a completely new area of law that I wasn't practicing before. And it took a few years to build that up and start making money, but that we had debts from the handbag business that were lingering. And then other bills would come in. And so it was like little small things that would pile up on each other, where it was a matter of prioritizing, okay, I've got to pay this thing first. And that was the type of stuff that I wasn't telling Erin. I would fix it, but it would just, another thing would arise that I have to, like whack-a-mole, I guess is the analogy. So the Bitcoin thing was just, there was one lingering larger thing we had to take care of. And we just had this Bitcoin sitting in the account for a while, and I just wanted to be done with it. So I sold it to pay it, wasn't gambling or paying for prostitutes or so I've seen some crazy shit.
Oh.
I've never had sex with a prostitute in my life, ironically. I'm actually a nice Jewish boy.
I don't know
despite what people think. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, to be fair, a lot of people who don't know and they haven't started their own businesses, it's even like if you watch Shark Tank and you see like the panel of the sharks, and they talk about how many times they went through different businesses where they invested money and it was like trial and error and trial and error. It's not necessarily about it just being a complete failure or whatever. If it doesn't work, it's like what you said, it's what you take away from that and implement into the new business to make sure you don't maybe make those same mistakes, even if you're going from handbags to mezcal, right? Like two totally different industries. But I
100%.
I did want to ask you too, like, for you having that conversation about the Bitcoin on camera, was that, you seem like a really natural guy in front of production. Was that easy for you? More so just like hard for the conversation for your wife, or was it harder to have the conversation in front of production and not so hard in front of your, like, who was more intimidating in this, production or your wife?
Well, it was my idea to talk about it on camera.
Okay.
So, I mean, I knew we were going to talk about it, and I wanted to talk about it. I mean, after the mushroom comment, obviously she got a little testy with me, and we spoke after, and I felt bad because I knew that she wasn't actually mad about the mushroom comment. I mean, she clearly made jokes like that, as post production showed with the flashback. So I knew it wasn't about that, and I also just knew she was upset, and I didn't want to go through. This was the very beginning of the season, and I didn't want her to feel, or us to feel, there's this elephant in the room in our relationship that's going to permeate the entire season. And so I said to her, I'm like, if you want to go into the stuff about our relationship, I'm cool with it. And I'd actually like to talk about it, because some part of it is catharsis, it's cathartic just to talk about it, a way for me to take accountability for it, maybe some level of penance, I guess. But also the most important part for me was, so many people go through this type of thing, and on these shows nobody ever talks about this kind of stuff, like past financial issues, or what it's like to have debt, and that pressure, what it's like for a man to have to bear that kind of burden in silence. I'm not saying that it was right to hide stuff from her with that at all, but a lot of men go through that and bear this silent burden that could be crushing. And I just thought, you know what, if we can have this conversation, if people can connect with that, maybe we could help people, who knows. But it's also just real. And I said from the beginning to her, I don't want to be on a show that's a reality show, that I'm going to show up to be this fake manufactured person of myself. I'm just not interested in doing that. I'd rather not film. And she feels the same way. And so it was real. It was what was going on in our lives. And so we felt like the audience deserved to see that.
I have to commend you for that, because my husband and I, we were addressed for like to do a reality show and all different things that were presented to us. And I, my best friend in the entire world, but he had an idea in his mind where he's like, if we did this, I would want to be portrayed as this. Like, you cannot talk the way that you talk normally inside the house, and you can't be the way that you are on camera if we were to actually do this. And I'm like, wait, what? That's literally what I would want to do, because that's just me. I don't know how to be any other way. And he's like, no, you would be destroyed for this. Like, you would have to learn how to be another way, which thankfully this didn't work out for us. And we are not on a reality TV show. But the fact that you think that it's like cathartic to have these conversations, to go on and fully just support your wife being a real housewife and be like, you know what, there's a conversation where, you know, you have an issue, or there's something that might be going on in our relationship. Let's talk about it. This is, I get, this is your job, this is real life. Just grab me a mezcal and let's do it.
It helps, the mezcal.
Yeah, of course, they
You
probably amp you
you
up before.
you bring up I think a bigger point though, which is on reality TV and on social media. I work in, I mean, I'm an entertainment and media attorney, so I work in this space for years. And so I see it from another lens too. But now being in it on kind of the inside, so to speak, it's also another perspective. But it's a lot of it is people manufacture themselves too much, and whether it's on reality TV or on social media. And I think that it's a very dangerous thing, because the more you do that and you put the filters on your pictures and all the bullshit that people do because they need to be portrayed in this perfect light, I think it's going to harm certainly my kids' generation, which I'm terrified for. But I think people in general, it's causes depression. People think they need to live a certain way because this person is doing. It's like keeping up with the Joneses on massive steroids, and I think it's a very, very dangerous path that we walk down in our society at large. And I think also that people, because of that, I think people are craving just something real. They watch these shows, they watch social media, and I think people have become attuned to what's bullshitty and what's fake. And I think people are just want something real, like real and authentic, because they're missing that in their own lives. And so I think there's an appetite for it, ironically, on reality TV for more reality.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And before we end up letting you go, because I know you're a super busy guy. Also, fans wanted to know too, with you being on the show and having, which Bryn seems like a really good time, and she could be very flirtatious and stuff like that. Obviously, it seems like you and Erin are just really good with it. You're easygoing. You're like, this is, we get what this is. It, no harm, no foul, no whatever. I was surprised that subscribers wanted to know this, but because I feel like I know the answer, but I've never asked you. Does it bother you guys ever? The
No,
flirtatiousness.
no. I mean, so I have my own friendship with Bryn, and I don't know. That's like how I grew up with my friends. It's like I have friends like that, and it's just part of their personality. And she means no harm by it. I mean, she's just being fun, and it's not something that that's something that bothers us. I mean, we don't.
Would it be different if you had like a guy friend and came over and just like looked at Aaron and was like, "Whoa, and if your husband's not around, I would love to like." Would it be or no? Would it be?
Yes,
It would be.
yeah, it would be. It would be totally different. But I think that I think that there are different, like, for good or bad, and maybe people will misinterpret this or cancel me because I'm saying this, but I do think that there are different dynamic standards between men and women, and I think that's just a reality
No,
of
I think that's fair.
social dynamics. And so, yeah, it would be different. It's if one of my straight guy friends was doing that, I would be like, dude, like, come on, it's inappropriate. But I
Yeah.
think it's much different. Plus, Aaron's way better looking than I am, so I think that the idea of, like, somebody like flirting with me in a friendly way, I don't think Erin is threatened at all by it, because she's like, try something, you'll see what happens. So
Yeah, Aaron's just walking around like Jennifer Aniston's doppelganger, just younger and prettier, and yeah, like she's like, "Go ahead, go
yeah,
for it." It's
we have a very secure relationship.
well, Abe, I really appreciate this. I appreciate the conversation. This has been so much fun, and I feel like I learned so much. And I'm not surprised how just real you were with throughout this
Thanks.
entire conversation. You're just very down to earth and like a very easygoing guy, just very forthcoming with any questions, any answers. I love it, and I appreciate that, and I
Thank
hope
you.
that you maintain that throughout your time on the show, because I know that obviously as seasons go by and years go by, people become more guarded, the fame level goes up, then people start doing weird things or becoming more weird as that fame
Well,
goes
weird
up.
things, I think you'll probably see more and more weird things for me. So that's a
Yeah.
given.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like,
I know
just
what you mean. I know what
keep
you mean.
doing the mushrooms and mezcal in New York, and we just want to see all of it. We love it.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Honestly, it's I'm so new to this. So, and you're lovely, and Jason seems lovely too. So, I appreciate you having me on and the questions and your realness also. So, thanks.
Well, and by the way, like I said at the very beginning, we have to do, and I know you guys right now don't know what this means, but we have to do a Mezcalum X blow party before the end of next year. Let's just like I'm putting this out in the universe. I would love to
I
do that.
I am I am in. I am in for
Perfect.
that.
Perfect. All right.
100%.
Sending you all the best. Thank you again, Abe, and I will talk to you guys soon. If there's anybody, by the way, for everyone who's listening right now, before we go, where can they find your mezcal, and they can
Oh,
obviously buy it
thank you.
now?
Yes, you could buy it in 44 states online. Just go to mezcalum.com, mezcalum.com. And if you do get it, tag us. And we always love reposting people who make cocktails and stuff. And we just hope you enjoy it. We really want people to just try it and have the human experience in this digital age. So I appreciate the plug there.
Yes, of course. We love it. And guys, also, if you're listening, watching right now, and you're in the live chat, once we put this up, then just know that in the description of this video, we are going to have all of the links so you can check out the product. You can go buy it. You can give Abe and Erin your honest reviews and support, because that's exactly what we want to do. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Abe, thank you. And
Thank you.
I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.